Today on Farm News 5, Market Facilitation Program sign-up begins next week. Now is the time to scout cornfields for tar spot, and Michigan Ag Commodities' Chris Betts joins us with a market report. I'm Janelle Brose, and this is Farm News 5.
Farm News 5 is brought to you by Ford.
Growers can begin signing up for 2019 Market Facilitation Program payments on Monday, July 29th. Payments will be based on a flat per-acre rate for all eligible commodities, but vary by county. County payment rates range from $15 to $150 per acre. Macomb and St. Clair counties will see the highest per-acre payment rate in Michigan at $68 and $67 respectively. Producers planting cover crops on prevent plant acres will be eligible for the minimum MFP payment rate of $15 per acre. The first of 3 payments will be made to producers in mid-August, with additional payments planned for the fall and winter if trade issues remain unresolved. For more information and to find your county rate, visit farmers.gov/MFP.
If you want a car from a company that's been building them for 115 years, get a Ford. If you want a car with driver assist technology, get a Ford. You're gonna want a Ford.
Corn growers should begin scouting fields for tar spot following the first detections of the disease in 2019 in Kent and Gratiot counties. Tar spot is a relatively new disease in the United States, making its first appearance in Indiana and Illinois in 2015 and in Michigan in 2016. Last year, tar spot was detected in 27 different counties across the state, reducing yields by 50 bushels an acre in some fields.
So far, all of the tar spot samples that have come in have been fairly low on the plant. And actually some of those fields have been corn on corn where we had tar spot last year. So, with tar spot, I think we really want to be looking at the whole plant, right? Don't just focus on the upper or the lower canopy, but keeping an eye on everything. But so far, yeah, certainly, disease has been showing up on these lower leaves. And that's probably just because, we've got corn debris out in the field that's been infected. Unfortunately, that tar spot fungus is really good at overwintering. And we're seeing spores discharge from that and then landing up on the foliage and infecting these older leaves. Late last season, here on campus in East Lansing, we were finding tar spot up on the upper leaves because it's just arriving later in the season. So it just sort of depends on, where those spores are coming from, but I would say definitely pay attention to the whole plant. So the fungus will infect the plant and then it will start producing these reproductive structures. And they're embedded in the leaf tissue and they've got a raised appearance to them, and you can feel that very often as well. But there are other things that look very similar to tar spot, and this year I'm really glad people are out looking. We've had a lot of false positives, and here's a really good example of that. So this is insect frass or insect poop, right? So again, this is not tar spot. These spots are very flat, so there's no real texture to them, and they'll rub off as well. So if I get a little bit of moisture here from the leaf there and start rubbing those lesions, they'll end up just rubbing, or the insect poop rather, they'll end up rubbing straight off. The point is that tar spot would not rub off like that. It would still be there because it's embedded in that leaf tissue. If folks are thinking that they've got tar spot, they've sort of done that rub test to make sure it passes that insect poop test, then I think it's really important just to get that confirmed, especially again because this is a new disease and we don't want to be making a fungicide recommendation based on false data. Take a sample if you can and send it into the MSU diagnostic services. Alternatively, I'm very happy to accept images as well and try and help you sort through those as well. With good quality images, we can be fairly confident in terms of disease identification.
Don't rely on a handshake. Minimize your risk. Protect your relationships. Get it in writing.
The story this growing season has been the wet weather keeping growers out of the fields. We visited Charlotte farmer Gary Parr for a look at his soybean crop.
All of our beans are no-till, so we're trying to plant on last year's corn stalks. With all the rain and the fodder, they just held it stayed wet. You could not get across the corn stalk field. We struggled, and the first beans we planted were June 28th. All of our beans are non-GMO, marketed through Citizens Elevator in Charlotte. They're food grade. The majority of them are exported. These beans here are actually a sprouting bean, a natto bean. So these are new to us. This is the first year we've grown the nattos. These beans are in 15-inch rows, so that means there's 15 inches spacing between the rows. Most of the beans are either solid seeded, which are 7.5-inch spacing. There are a lot of 15s, and then a lot of guys are planting beans in 30-inch rows now. The importance of row spacing, particularly when you get late like this in the season, is canopy closure. So you look down through these rows and you can see a lot of exposed dirt. The sooner that the beans grow together and close that canopy, that's what chokes off your weeds. As long as that canopy's open, you have the potential for weeds to come through. We ended up with, out of about 900 acres, we ended up with 227 that went unplanted. So we'll collect prevented planting insurance on those acres. And some of that money you just figure you're going to have to put back in for weed control, be it mechanical, chemical. You're going to control the weeds, and then it costs money to plant a cover crop, of course. And then there is concern that depending on when our first frost date is, everything that got planted but planted late, will it reach maturity?
The Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee is devoted to investing soybean farmer checkoff dollars to address grower concerns. We focus our efforts on production research, market development, and outreach. Learn more at michigansoybean.org.
The results are in. According to a Michigan Farm News reader survey, only 68% of originally intended corn acres were actually planted to corn, with 6% of those acres switched to soybeans. The remaining 26% were prevent plant acres. The same survey found only 70% of readers' originally intended soybean acres were actually planted, with the remaining 30% of their soybean acres considered prevent plant. Both results run counter to what some would consider optimistic estimates by the USDA. And now with a look at the latest market activity, here is Michigan Ag Commodities' Chris Betts.
Thanks, Janelle. All three were mostly lower this week as extended forecasts are viewed as non-threatening by the trade. Temps look to be favorable, but many areas of the Corn Belt are forecasted to see below average rainfall. U.S. trade officials are scheduled to visit Shanghai next week to resume negotiations with the Chinese. There have been some rumors of small purchase of U.S. beans, which could be a sign of the Chinese negotiating in good faith. Tariffs, however, remain in place, and the two sides still appear to be far apart on a deal. Choppy range-bound trade looks to be the name of the game in the near term, as traders await the August round of USDA reports, which will include revised acreage estimates. In the meantime, market direction will still hinge on weather. For more market information, go to michag.com. With Michigan Agricultural Commodities, I'm Chris Betts.
For more news and video, visit MichiganFarmNews.com and the Michigan Farm Bureau channel on YouTube. With Farm News 5, I'm Janelle Brose. Have a great week of farming.